G'day guys and welcome back to this week's fishing report. Let's get straight into it with what's been biting around Sydney this week. There's been plenty of bream being caught underneath moored boats around rocky foreshore lines and any area where structure has been prevalent in a lot of the rivers here in Botany Bay and the Port Hacking, with the bream seeming to be travelling further up the river to find either warmer waters or more bait. Using lightly weighted soft plastics have been the key, and also hard bodies depending on what type of structure you have been fishing. A lot of people have been using soft plastics underneath the moored boats and finding a lot of success, and a lot of people have been using the hard bodies along the rocky foreshore lines to be able to get some really nice bream up to 35 centimeters quite consistently throughout the weekend. Salmon seem to be moved into the river now, with some fish, particularly in the Port Hacking, reaching over 70 centimeters. It's been hard the last couple of weeks to be able to find consistent patches of them, but looking for the birds and looking for the bait has been the key to being able to find the salmon. Along with that, finding a nice clear patch of water, some water that isn't affected too much by the rain that we've had over the last couple of weeks, has also been a key target for that. Fishing really small bait fish style soft plastics have been the key. Casting them as far as you can across the surface, then winding them very quickly across the surface has seen people catching quite a lot of really nice salmon at the moment. Along with that, if you can't find the salmon fitting on the surface, trolling around with some deep diving hard bodies that sink to about a meter and a half just to get below that, break that surface tension, will hopefully be able to help you find some fish. With the weather forecast over the next week, with some nice, beautiful, clear, sunny days, we should see the water slowly start to clear up and clean up quite a lot, making the salmon action turn on even more, because to be able to visually see them a bit better, they'll sit up higher in the water column, they'll chase the bait a lot easier if the water's a lot clearer. Jewfish over the last week has been a very consistent capture, both at nighttime and during the day. Working your moon phases out with the tides has been the key. Then also, once you're out there, finding the bait and finding where they are hanging and congregating, using live baits and big soft plastics have been successful for any of the fish throughout Botany Bay and Port Hacking. In Botany Bay, they've been catching them throughout the Georges River, around most bridges, all the way up to East Hills. Some fish have been caught in the Port Hacking as well, along Lillipilly, Southwest Arm, have been the consistent spots for the Port Hacking. So moving on to this weekend, we have a very similar weekend to what we had previously. The only issues are we have quite a big swell throughout the weekend, with swells above 2 meters, with about 8-9 seconds in between each one. So it's going to be very rough if you are heading out offshore. I would not recommend you to be able to go out offshore over the weekend, because the conditions are just way too dangerous. For me personally, I'm not going to be doing that. It's just not worth the risk at the moment, and especially with whales starting to migrate north, it's just going to make it even harder to be able to go out offshore and go out safely out offshore. For our wind throughout the weekend, we've got quite a consistent southwesterly. Now, in the winter, southwesterly is my favorite wind to fish. Southwesterly is a really nice wind to fish. The only issue is it can be quite consistently high, which is what we're going to be looking at this weekend. We're going to be looking at about 30 kilometers an hour throughout the whole weekend. But the trick is you need to be able to find spots where you are protected from the wind. So any southwest corner of a river system will be able to provide you with enough cover to be able to still be able to fish quite successfully. So for me, when planning to go fishing this weekend, I'm going to be heading to my southwesterly corners of the rivers. So Southwest Arm, Northwest Arm are going to be the two in the Port Hacking that I'll probably head around Gymea as well. All of the southerly areas, or the southerly foreshores of the Port Hacking, will be areas that I might target over the weekend. For Botany Bay and the Georges River, Towra along Botany Bay will be the choice of places to go fish. And then if you are heading further towards the Georges River, all of the southern side of the Georges River, you should be able to find some nice protected areas to be able to go fish. It just will really depend on what type of fish you're going to be targeting. So if you're targeting our brim, flathead, whiting, and estuary perch, all those sorts of common river fish, any type of our bridges, our stand flats, Warrenora River, heading further up even to like East Hills, Padstow area, Reesby area, you should be able to find some really consistent catches over the weekend. The next thing I want to look at is planning what times I might be able to go for a fish over the weekend and what is going to be able to be the most successful time to be able to go for a fish. So we're looking at a few things. We're looking at obviously moon phase, tide, sunrise, sunset. Our low light periods are all the things that we look at when we are trying to be able to decide what time to go for a fish. I've done many videos where I've gone into lots of depth and detail about that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it right now, but if you would like to go and have a look, there's plenty of videos that I've put out on my channel in regards to going into lots of depth of detail to be able to select times of the day to be able to fish, to give yourself the best chance to have the best fishing session that you can. So looking at the weekend and looking at the times that I would like to go for a fish, I'm going to be linking a lot of my stuff around tide changes rather than moon phases, because a lot of the fish that I'm going to be targeting, they do not depend a lot on the moon phase and moon rises, moon sets. So I'm going to be targeting things like brim and estuary perch over the weekend. If the water clarity is nice and good and nice and clear, I might even go for some salmon. So those three types of fish, often the moon phase doesn't take a lot of effect in regards to trying to find a consistent captures of these guys. What more takes control is the tides. We have a run-in tide in the morning with high tides around 9:30, 10 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. So that's what I'm going to be targeting. I'm going to be targeting the run-in tide, particularly to target my estuary perch and brim. That's also a great tide for salmon as well. But the majority of the time I'm going to be trying to get is estuary perch and brim. So the running tide, perfect. I've got from sunrise, which is about 6 o'clock, 6:30 to about 9:30. So there's about 3 hours there where I can fish for our estuary perch and brim on that running tide. And then I've probably got another hour once that tide turns and starts to run out as well to fish a lot of those rocky foreshores, particularly. Those rocky foreshore lines, the fish will push up really, really high up along those shorelines, especially when it's high tide. They'll go up and try and feed on all different crustaceans, try and break open oysters and congee and all sorts of stuff that will be growing on the rocks on that high tide. So it's a perfect time to be heading over there to try and have a fish. Same again on Sunday. I'll be looking to fish around that high tide and try and fish around that tide change again. What I'll be trying to plan on doing is always to have my plan B is to go target some salmon. If the salmon are on and they're feeding across the surface and they're feeding quite well, my plan is to go out there and try and get a few, try and even get a few on a fly rod. I've got a fly rod sitting there just waiting to try and hook up to a salmon. I'm just waiting for some nice clear weather and some nice consistent weather to be able to go and see if I can get some fish on a fly rod. That would be pretty cool. So that's my plans for the weekend. Heading out in the morning, either Saturday or Sunday or both days, fishing 4 to 5 hours across from sunrise to about 10:30 a.m. Fishing that running tide for brim, estuary perch, and salmon, depending on how the salmon are going. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all got something out of it. I hope you all go out for a fish this weekend. And if you do, let me know how you went. Leave a comment down below. Hopefully my tips are helping you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.